Really appreciate all this stuff. I mean, I think it's important. Like, I think a lot of times we're here at school and like maybe we're out in the field doing something, but then we don't really have a sense of like how bad it can get, and I think it's important for us, to kind of realize the realities of things the way they are. And I wondered if any of the students had any specific questions, like stuff that is relative to your site and where you work. If you guys had questions for Chuck here, yeah.
I was wondering, what's the penalty for a parent who knows, like if they live in a neighborhood and a child is going to a friend's house and they might be being sexually assaulted. The parent knows about it.
If the parent knows about it, they don't report that. They can actually be punished with a class A.
What's the fine? How long do they go to jail?
11 months to 29 days, the max they can get for a class A. It's a misdemeanor, which felonies, they can carry anything from a year to life. But they would stay in sessions court judge. Most times he can give you 29.
If any parent has drugs around their kids, then that's illegal. Period.
That's illegal. Now, if you're prescribed, say you're prescribed hydros, and you're taking them like you're supposed to, the doctors gave them, and there's a reason you have to take them. And you've got kids, no, that's okay.
If they're buying these pills like off the street,
right? That is illegal. And
what's the penalty for that?
Well, it's hard to get them prosecuted. I mean, we can eat them up. But as far as prosecution-wise, I had a case during the summer. I worked with the DCS, which is the drug task force. I sat and talked to a lady long enough. She started telling me who she was selling her pills to and how many she was selling at a time. Well, I called DTF. They picked her up and she was sitting in jail that night on a $60,000 bond. So they ended up pleading her down for distributing. The hydro, I believe, was scheduled for. They played her down. She done like 6 months. The rest of it was on probation. Now the guy with the meth making components I said about with the jar of urine, he got 10 years for having meth making components. So I mean, he wrote on a lot of people, which that happens a lot. He wrote on who gave him the instructions, who had an active lab, so they cut him a break. He done maybe 3 months in jail. The rest of it's on community correction. But meth is a big thing. Sexual abuse. One good thing about sexual abuse is we can get a prosecution on sexual abuse, and you are convicted. It's 100% of whatever your conviction is. So if they give you 25 years, you're going 25 years. Period. There's no you'll serve 30% and you're out. But it's hard to get a conviction. We've had a few, yeah.
Okay, so if you know that a parent of like one of the children is like a cocaine user, do you have to report that?
Because that's abuse and they come under the drug exposed child. Well, our allegation, we have drug exposed child and drug exposed infant. Any child under the age of 1 is considered an infant. So but most stuff comes in drug exposed child. That's where we get a lot of people at. If they're using cocaine, which cocaine is becoming a rarity now. But if you got a pretty good idea they're using cocaine, or you know for a fact they're using cocaine, you need to report it.
What about in the past if they've used it,
if they've used in the past, and what do you mean by the past? 6 months?
I mean, if it's been, if it's known that the parent has, would that still,
I would probably go ahead and report it to be safe, because a lot of times when people get on hard stuff, especially cocaine and stuff like that, it's hard for them just to quit cold turkey. And even, we went out on stuff and people's been negative and they said, yeah, I used cocaine 6 months ago. Which if they're negative and they say I used 6 months ago, we can't do nothing to them. I mean, that's as bad as it is to say, we can't. Because as soon as we try to file something in court, the judge didn't throw it out, it'd get through out. Because they're sitting there with a negative screen.
I have a question. When would you report psychological abuse? What would that
Well, we used to have 2 allegations called substantial risk of sexual abuse and substantial risk of physical injury. So like if one kid you know gets sexually perped on and they've got a sibling in the home, it would carry in substantial risk to the other child. Once substantial risk went away, they started speaking of psychological harm and a lot of stuff. Psychological harm, I've indicated a lot of people in my career. And I've only had I've had maybe 4 or 5 overturned. If 4 of them have been overturned, have been psychological harm. But if, say a kid tells you, you got cutters, or if a kid says, Daddy come home drunk and started headbutting the wall, call it in. Because they may even put it as drug exposed because of the alcohol. Alcohol's hard to get to stick, but we may be able to do something with psychological harm. Like a lot of domestic cases where domestic assaults between mom and dad, those will come in psychological. Did that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you're a parent and you have like jail time, is that like overall time or is that like per child? Like if you have like 6 children.
You get more hours.
Yeah, you have to have like, instead of like
You get more years based on.
No.
Stack it on.
Now say you got 6 kids and you sexually perped on all 6 of them,
Yeah.
they'll charge you with 6 counts.
Okay.
Now what they can start doing, they can start stacking the counts. If they find you guilty on all 6 counts, and say they give you 10 years per count,
Okay,
that's
so
60 years you're going to get.
Kind of yes, and kind of no.
But even if you got 1 child, I've seen fall before where someone has been charged with 18 counts of rape of a child because they know 18 different incidents that somebody's perped on this child. And then they'll start stacking them on top of each other.
Chuck, if it's all right, if we could take one more question. Would it be okay if people have questions? Do you have a few minutes after the meeting?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
okay,
fine.
great. If you guys have questions, we'll take one more from Paul. And if you have questions, Chuck will stay after.
Just to kind of get a general idea of this area, what is it you mainly see?
Well, you're pretty familiar with Jefferson County?
Somewhat, kind of.
Well, you got Straw Plains, Newmarket, Jefferson City, White Pine, and Dandridge. Dandridge makes up a large portion of the county. Straw Plains, we normally see physical abuse. Newmarket, you normally see physical abuse. Jefferson City, you see a lot of drugs. Drugs is real big in Jefferson City. Now Dandridge, where it's so big, especially like up towards exit 412 out that way, that's considered Dandridge. That's where a lot of our sexual abuse comes from. And then White Pine, we always joke, if you get something in White Pine, it's going to be bad. Because you might as well go ahead and take your mobile package week, you're ready to call the attorney, something's going to happen. But White Pine, they got a little mixture of everything. Theirs is mainly physical abuse and drugs. And a lot of their other, in White Pine, a lot of their other things is like statutory rape. We work a lot of those. If a child is over the age of 13, and say they get perped on by one of their buddies' friends, we can't do anything about it because it's somebody in a caregiving role. The police will take that over. But if somebody's 17 years old and it's their brother or somebody that lives in the home or is a caregiver, babysitter, or whatever, I mean, 17-year-olds think we'll have to be babysitters, but we'll still have to take it because it's somebody in a caregiving role. And sex abuse, a lot of times, is hard to prove. Another benefit we have is Children's Hospital. They use them. I'm going to go over this real quick, okay?
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
We have a forensic medical examiner, or forensic pediatrician. The medical examiner sounds like she's passed away. But she is very good. And on a child, especially a female, even a male, they have a scope. They can find scars, tears, and stuff like that. If we can find a scar or a tear